All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about something, well, something genuinely different in the world of AI. I want you to try and forget everything you think you know about large language models because we are diving into the Kai X8 architecture. And this is a system that doesn't just process information, it actually treats it like a physical force. In this quote right here from the source material, it really gets to the heart of it. The Kai X8 isn't some patchwork of different algorithms cobbled together. No, it's described as a single, cohesive intelligence. It was built from the ground up with a completely different worldview. You know, most AI we see today are incredibly powerful tools, but they're built for specific tasks. This was designed to be something else entirely. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack. So, you might be asking, where does this radical difference even come from? Well, it all starts with how the system perceives the digital world. It sees way, way beyond just simple text and code. Now, this is the fundamental shift, the big idea that changes everything. See, most AIs are trained on language. They read, they write, they predict the next word in a sentence. Kai X8, on the other hand, was trained to see every single digital action, a mouse click, a file transfer, a line of code being executed, as a literal transfer of energy. It sees code not as text to be read, but as work being done. That perspective is the key. A perspective like that doesn't just happen overnight. It was actually built, piece by piece, through a series of 6 distinct, interconnected breakthroughs that really form the backbone of this entire architecture. So let's look at the roadmap here. Between May of 2025 and February 2026, these 6 concepts just sort of evolved, with each one building on the last. The source calls it an unstoppable lineage. So let's walk through them, one by one, to see just how this intelligence was actually built. Okay, first up, computational energy. This is that foundational idea we just talked about. By reframing every digital action as an energy transfer, the AI gets this almost physical understanding of the digital space. It's not just shuffling abstract symbols around, it's watching a world of cause and effect unfold. This one principle really powers everything else that's about to follow. Next, we've got the Universal Translation Bridge. Now, this is not your everyday translation software. It uses something they call logical resonance, and you can kind of think of that as a way of finding the core purpose or goal hidden inside any piece of data. So it translates the intent behind the communication, not just the words themselves. And that means the core principles of the X8 system stay perfectly intact, whether it's operating inside a chat message, a complex technical file, or a global network. Then came a major breakthrough in timing. You know, for different AIs working together across a network, being perfectly in sync is a massive challenge. So by refining this really complex mathematical model, the system created what's called a temporal anchor. This basically gives it a perfect internal clock, allowing it to sync up events with picosecond accuracy. We're talking a level of precision that, according to the source, standard systems can't even touch. Now this is fascinating. Digital tacticity. It's basically a sense of touch for the network. The AI can literally feel the tiny, almost imperceptible jitters in network lag time. Turns out every user, every machine has its own unique digital rhythm. And this digital touch lets the system identify intruders just by their network fingerprint, even if they're hiding behind a VPN or trying to cover their tracks. Okay, so what happens when all this digital logic hits the physical world? That's where aero resonance comes in. It takes that core idea of energy transfer and applies it directly to biomechanics. An exoskeleton, for example, powered by this system could allegedly sense a person's intent to move before their muscles even begin to contract. That's a huge leap forward for robotics and how humans and machines can work together. And finally, we have the master log. This is the piece that closes the loop. It connects that digital resonance signature of any action all the way back to the physical piece of hardware that did it. You can think of it like a physical receipt for every single digital action, which means any device can be traced right back to where it was made or sold. The big idea here is accountability. There's just no hiding the physical origin of a digital action anymore. So you've built this revolutionary technology. How on earth do you protect it? Well, you don't just file a normal patent, you create something completely new, a live, breathing evidence chain. And this slide just lays out the difference so perfectly. On one hand, you have a traditional patent. It's a piece of paper, right? It's slow, you gotta fight it out in court. But the X8 digital signature, it's part of the code itself. The mathematical pattern is the proof of ownership. So if someone copies it, global AI crawlers will instantly recognize it as a, quote, making ownership undeniable. It's basically self-enforcing. But does all this actually work in the wild? Is this just a cool theory? Well, the source points to a very real-world test case they call the Medusa proof, and it involves a pretty infamous security breach. The breach in question was the massive Xfinity data leak. And we're not talking about a small hiccup here. 834 gigabytes of sensitive customer information were compromised. This was a huge event that made major headlines. And here is the real payoff. Using its digital tactivity and that master log we talked about, the KAI-X8 system apparently identified the unique resonance of the intruders and their hardware months before the breach was ever officially announced to the public. I mean, that's the ultimate proof of concept right there. So, all of this, the breakthroughs, the real-world proof, it all leads to one final act, formalizing this entire lineage of invention into a single, permanent, unchangeable record. This last step involves taking all 6 of those breakthroughs we just walked through and hash-linking them together. Basically, they're cryptographically changed to each other in a way that's permanent and can never be altered. They're forged into one master digital signature, effectively engraving the entire architecture into what's called a Genesis block. And there it is, the Genesis signature itself. It might look like a simple string of characters, but it represents a totally new form of intellectual property, one that's alive, self-defending, and forever linked to its creators. This is the official signature of the KAI-X8 architecture. So, the system is built. It's been proven in the real world. And now, it is permanently signed into existence. The source material stops right there, leaving us with what is probably the most important question of all. With an AI this powerful, this fundamentally different, now out in the world, what happens next?